Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this session, and a big thank you to Living Security for having me here at their annual Human Risk Management Conference. My name is Michele Kim. I'm the head of Business Information Risk at Fitch Group, and one of the functions I manage is Human Behavior Risk. I'm going to talk about how our program at Fitch has evolved over the years and what I've learned along the way that I wish someone had showed me before. As security professionals, we all have the knowledge and vision of how the program should look like. However, the challenge I faced was in the implementation piece, transforming this theoretical knowledge and vision into a tangible program. I found myself wishing for a concrete example to look at how others' policies look like, how others' phishing program is run, so I can use them as starting points for my programs. Throughout the slides, I try to use actual examples of the contents from my program so that hopefully you can take away a thing or two, whether you are new to the role or revamping an existing program. Okay. Before I dive into the content, I want to mention that this is not about maturing your program according to the many maturity models out there. It's easy for many of us to get boggled down with these models, probably because as security professionals, we are used to applying structured cybersecurity frameworks. But just like how we apply the frameworks, these maturity models should be used as a guideline and not as a Bible. We shouldn't be afraid to mix them to suit our culture so that we can ultimately create phases that fits our own organization. Today, I'm going to talk about the different phases that my organization went through and how we've evolved over the years to creating risk-based programs. Okay, so phase one. During this period, the notion of having a comprehensive security awareness program didn't really exist. What we did have was the most basic form of compliance training, compliance-driven annual training, I should say, coupled with a single article published in October for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. The only feedback I received during that time was around how long and boring the training was. This phase happened to us during COVID, when our employees are working remote mostly. Fortunately for us, the interest in online safety was increasing during this time. It was a good time for us to refresh our annual training and enhance our publications. We published something like 35 articles in a 2-year period during this phase. We also started conducting phishing campaigns for the first time, which gave us a chance to evaluate whether our employees were effectively retaining the knowledge from our many articles. Although the phishing campaigns were generally well received, the failure rate was rather high as expected. It was clear that we needed to do something more than just articles about general security. Maybe more on the personal side, like home network or online safety for kids, since everyone was spending most of the time at home. So I published a personal security guide that tailored to their home and added a bit about phishing tips for personal email. But guess what? It's the same tips as business emails. Feedback was very positive. People were starting to spot phishing and reporting more. This experience has taught me that the most effective way to engage an audience in any context is to address the question, how does this impact me on a personal level? I'll talk more about this in the later slides. During this phase, this was a time when the employees were getting somewhat virtually fatigued from all the online activities. Our readership of the security articles had noticeably gone down, and the phishing, clicking, and reporting rate wasn't improving much. People were craving more interactions with their colleagues, especially the new joiners who never got a chance to socialize with their colleagues. So the first step we took after noticing this was to introduce events that their colleagues can participate together. We used Living Security CSAM package. Big shout out. Woohoo. It provided us with cyber escape room for gamification training where colleagues can team up and play for a chance to win prizes together. It also provided us with a mentalist session for family engagement with kids and a keynote speaker who gave excellent insights on different forms of social engineering. To take things up a notch, from publishing traditional articles, we also introduced Fish Tank, which is a central repository site that displays real phishing emails that were reported by our own colleagues. The goal of this was to educate employees on how to spot phishing by providing real-life examples for reference. We also started to publish a firm-wide monthly newsletter, which combined both corporate and personal security. Remember what I mentioned about answering to a question, how does this personally impact me, on the previous slide? It'll reach more audience if the content touches them personally. This newsletter, by the way, is the only communication that has been consistently distributed on a monthly basis to our entire firm for the past 2 years since we began its publication. Tap, tap. At the end of phase 3, we were switching to a hybrid schedule of being in the office part-time, so we decided to do our first in-person event. We set up a table by the cafeteria, introduced ourselves and some security tips. We also partnered with our volunteering team to create an event relating to cybersecurity education for kids. Phase 4 is our current phase, where we introduce risk-based programs. There are 2 programs that I've implemented based on risk, an improvement program and a reward program based on phishing campaigns. Over the years of conducting phishing tests, our stats show that it's only a small number of people that repeatedly fail the phishing campaigns and also repeatedly report them. In our company, it was less than 2% of the firm for each of the behaviors, interestingly. Actually, if we have time, a question for the audience. If you can put it in the chat, is it 2% higher or lower than your organization? I would love to get some baseline. We don't have to stop, but we can, if you guys can put it in the chat. Okay, in terms of these high-risk repeat clickers, it was clear that these 2% that we needed to aim for targeted training. It was also clear that if there are no accountability for failing phishing campaigns, the campaigns are not going to be effective no matter how many times we test them. I mean, who cares if nobody cares, right? As an improvement program for these high-risk repeat clickers, I've published a phishing accountability procedure. We called it a procedure instead of a policy, since this is not setting a guideline for what should be done, but rather outlining specific actions to achieve results. I apologize that I can't share what's exactly in the procedure, but I wanted to at least share this template so it'll help you as a starting point. The procedure should state why you're doing this, who's in scope, and how you're going to track the repeat clickers. Also, list specific actions you will take for the number of fails and clearly define compliant versus non-compliant measures. Now, at the time of implementing these actions to repeat clickers, I was getting nervous. Unlike what we've done in the other phases, this was targeting them directly. We were emailing the users as well as their management for awareness. I was afraid of the potential backlash from the repeat clickers and the potential lack of management support. But to my surprise, the feedback had been very supportive, especially from the managers. The only inquiry we got from the repeat clickers was to verify which campaigns they had failed. A lot of them didn't even realize that they had failed so many times. I do want to mention that when creating a policy like this, you should consult with different partners for their expertise, as well as get their buy-in before publishing the policy. Nobody likes surprises, especially these folks, right? Now, in contrast to the improvement program for the repeat clickers, I also introduced Phish Hall of Fame to recognize the 2% of the repeat reporters who continuously report more than half of the phishing campaigns received. Unlike the accountability procedure where we've minimized the user exposure, I felt the users of this program deserve a wide recognition to their management as well as the entire firm. I published their names on the firm-wide article, as well as on our firm-wide newsletter. I've also emailed all of their managers to take a moment to personally congratulate them on their commitment to cybersecurity. This year, we've even published top 10 reporters creating a competition field and also highlighted repeat inductees from the year before, which were about 60% for us. The feedback on this program was phenomenal. The managers responded back with many kudos for their team members, as well as for us for creating the program. In a typical behavior change model, studies have shown that positive reinforcement tends to be more effective because they enforce preferred behaviors by linking them to positive incentives. As I mentioned in the beginning, the takeaway here is that there's no single model that suits all of us. For my program, I've applied both positive and negative consequence models because both models suited for our risk level. The key thing here is that no matter which model you choose or both, you should make sure that it complements your own organizational culture and has the support of the management team. Before we end the session, I wanted to mention about working with few other partners in your organization that will help you enhance the quality of your work. Aside from the partners I've mentioned already, I wanted to mention two more partners, the internal communications and the design team, if your organization has them. The internal communications team can help you polish your message to the audience, and the design team can do wonders to enhance your presentation of your message. I'm going to show you some examples of how the design team in particular came to my rescue. This is one of the slides in the personal security guide that I mentioned. It shows my text-heavy PPT version on the left side and the interactive design version on the right. If you are the user, which one would you prefer to read? Same with the emails. This is an actual email we've sent to the Fitch Hall of Fame inductees. Left is a draft that I created as a template. The right one is the same message, but with an email and a signature banner the design team created for us. If you are the recipient of this email, which one would make you more happy? At the end of the day, users just want security to be easy for them to use and understand. In our line of business, little things like this do matter because we work with people. It'll take us one step close to changing their behavior. Thank you. Okay, I hope I did good on time. Sandy, let's open up for questions if there are any.
Yes, you did excellent on time. I appreciate it. We actually were able to buy some more time. So
awesome.
Yeah, we have some time for questions. There was some response to the 2% of repeat clickers. It looks like that is pretty low. That does seem like a pretty good one. On the report side, that's 2% of repeat reporters seems very low to me. So wonder what it is now. Is it much better?
We're in the monitoring stage, actually. So we just published, we just actioned the steps in the accountability procedure this year. And we also just published the Fitch Hall of Fame for the second year, not too long ago. So we're still in the monitoring stage, but we're hoping to get it up.
Awesome. And how often are you doing simulations?
We do on a monthly basis, but it's not the same audience that it targets. It's a targeted audience. So we do firm-wide about 4 times a year, and rest are targeted testing.
Great. There's one request to go back to your gotcha slide, which had a lot of interesting information.
Which one is the gotcha slide? Let's see. Which ones?
I think a little before you had some things to call out.
Oh, this one. You've been fished?
I think it was more towards the beginning of the presentation.
Okay, so this was the first slide? I have a feeling they're referring to the McDonald's one, no?
Oh, okay, maybe so, yeah.
Okay, so what was the question on that one? By the way, this is not an email of the actual phishing email. We published an article based on the first phishing email we conducted, which was on McDonald's. And again, this was the combination work of both the internal communications team and the design team, where they created, like, as soon as people hovered over this McDonald's sign, they would immediately see the screen on the right. I just captured it both on the same screen. So it made it very eye-catching.
Oh, very cool. Very interactive. We do have a question around whether you have any suggestions for scaling to a very large audience. So dealing with, 100,000 or more users. You talked about targeting different groups and how you do that. How would you picture scaling that?
Okay, so if they're referring to the repeat clicker program, an improvement program, I think no matter whether your term is whether your firm has a global presence or even if it's a small business, I think the same logic applies, right? It's on the number of different fails that the action should be stated for, and not necessarily the number of folks or depending on the region or whatnot. It's not the number of people, but I think it's the action per the number of fails that it should apply. And same thing with Fitch Hall of Fame. But now I get the point though. With Fitch Hall of Fame, I've listed out 100 and there was about 120 of the inductees this year. So I've listed 120 of their names. So yeah, if you work for 100,000 people firm, I get that. Yeah, I guess there could be other creative ways. Maybe your firm has an automated process where, some companies, you can just bring in people's profile picture or like a little business card onto where they can post the articles for the intranet, right? So maybe it can be used that way instead of just printing them out. Or you can use the design and creative team like I did to create some kind of poster. It could be 10 pages. The important thing here is to give them the recognition. No matter how many people there are, I believe in spelling out their full names so that they can be recognized, and also contacting their managers. Now, the one bit that I didn't mention in our partners is that in order to contact them, contact the users and the managers, we partnered up with a RPA team. I think they're called robotic process automation teams, so that we don't have to manually email those people with copying their managers, but they were able to automate it for us. Maybe your company will have something like that you're able to email hundreds of thousands of people if need be in an automated way.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught mine in the same track earlier today. We talked about some of that orchestration, and as things bubble up, you can trigger automatic messages via Slack or email out, in basically real time to that effect. So yeah, we have early versions of that. We're continuing to build that out. So yeah, we should talk about that more.
Okay.
There are some more questions, and I think we do have a decent amount of time. So one is around how you handle escalations within the program around accountability. So many of us are probably seen or heard of or been a part of organizations with punitive for repeat clickers. How do you handle that accountability piece, and then also on the positive side with recognition?
Yeah, so I mentioned before that I was lucky enough to not get the backlash from the users, but we did have onesies and twosies of like, hey, I don't remember clicking on this. Are you sure are you sure of your stats? Are you sure like I'm your repeat clicker? And they had some complaints about the assigned training, etc. Now, my approach was to handle this in a personal level, like how does this impact me personally? Like, that seems to be my ongoing message here. But I talked to them, I called them, I set up a meeting with them, and then discussed, here are the stats that we pulled. Here are the campaigns that you clicked on this date, and even had a time. So given the data, they couldn't really say much after that. But in terms of like, hey, this type of training doesn't suit our company, or, doesn't suit my line of work, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, if the assigned training is not suited for you, there are plenty of others that I can assign. But the point is that you finish one of them. And I also try to get their feedback. It's like, okay, so if you don't like this training, why is that? And if you like this training, the later one I signed, why is that one? Why is that you like that better? So I used it as an opportunity to get the user feedback at the same time. And with the reporter, it was just a lot of, kudos emails from the managers mostly. Then, hey, my team member, Joe, has always been an advocate of your program. I better step up to be more like the team member. Like, that was the reaction that we were getting. So no negative connotations there, because it's not meant to be taken any negatively. And hopefully the reaction is going to be same for your organization as well.
Right. in these examples, have you done any correlation, to look at the level of the employee, the role, or the access that they had when they are a repeat clicker or repeat reporter, to kind of understand the impact that that could have?
Yeah, so going back to my slide here. Oh, no. Yeah, this one. So under in the middle section where it lists the number of fails, like the actions for the number of fails, you'll see that third time fail with sensitive roles. So people like in IT or accounting that have special access to like the more privileged roles, or that are heavier targeted for the phishing attacks, right? So for those, we have separate actions assigned to them. It's not a one training for all method. And the special training for them include like one-on-one session with our security members, such as me, and a targeted training based on their role.
Makes sense. That sounds good. Some other questions here. So one around, are you still doing mandatory annual training, or have you discontinued that?
Yeah. So we are still doing it because it has a lot of information that's specific to our company. It has like the data classification. It has like a lot of Fitch specific things that we want people to know security wise. So we still kept it, but I know that the trend is to kind of move away from, one training once a year and kind of move into like micro training multiple times a year. So that's something that I'm considering. But at the time, the supplemental training is only assigned to the targeted audience, such as the repeat clickers, but the annual mandatory training is still being done by the entire company. But we do continuously update them.
Great. I think, and that kind of answers Justine's question around, following and evolving with changes in behavior, and trying to continue to keep your training content changing and very relevant to what's going on. So that sounds good. Okay. I don't think, did I miss any questions?
Yeah, thank you for keeping track of them, because I can't do two things at once.
No, absolutely. This is great. And maybe it looks like your phase 4. Someone was hoping to see that phase 4 slide again.
Oh, wait. So phase 4 are just the two programs, the improvement program and the reward-based program. And then I got into the slides in the others, actual content in the other slides.
Excellent. So as you continue to build this out, as you're thinking about 2024 and beyond, what are kind of the next behaviors or the next things you're looking to be measuring and tracking and potentially building out in terms of reward and risk-based improvement programs?
Yeah, so we're currently in the monitoring stage, as I mentioned. So we rolled out these programs, these targeted trainings that we've never done before. So it'll be interesting to see the results. And based on those results, either we may need to break them down, as you mentioned, maybe into a departmental level, maybe into the regional level, whatnot. But it's to be continued or to be considered after we see the results.